Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I'm the Butcher of Bakersfield.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to take a look at Arnold Schwarzenegger movie from 1987, The Running Man. Directed by Paul Michael Glaser, who you might remember from Starsky and Hutch, the TV series. But anyway, this is a director that's come from a TV background and was actually the fifth director in line for this film after the previous directors were all let go because they were taking the film in the wrong direction, they were going over budget, or they were behind schedule. So they ended up with Paul Glaser. And this is also an adaptation of a book called The Running Man. At the time, the name of the book, the author of the book was under a pseudonym. The actual author is none other than Stephen King. And The Running Man, the book, is about a guy whose daughter is dying from an illness. And so he puts himself into a game show to earn the money to pay for his daughter's medicine. The film, however, is totally different. Iain, why don't you give us the synopsis for The Running Man?
Well, the story follows Arnold Schwarzenegger, who plays Ben Richards. Ben Richards is working for the government and disobeys a direct order to shoot some unarmed civilians and is imprisoned for this. He then escapes from the prison and heads to the city to find his brother and realizes his brother has been re-educated by the government. He is recaptured and placed into a TV show called The Running Man. Now, the rules of The Running Man are simple. He has to get through 4 quadrants in 3 hours being chased by a bunch of stalkers. But I don't think they realize who they have on their hands. For me, this is a nostalgic trip. When people talk about the films that they watched when they were kids, you know, the normal ones usually pop up. You know, Last Unicorn, Flight of Dragons, The Lord of the Rings, Transformers the movie. For me, it was Running Man, Predator, Terminator, Alien, Aliens. Just the classic 80s sci-fi extravaganzas. I remember sitting there on Saturday nights in front of my TV waiting for the next big movie to come out, and when The Running Man first aired for me, I was blown away. I'd seen a few Arnold Schwarzenegger movies up to this point, and he was always pretty much a badass right from the beginning. Right from the beginning of this movie, he's a badass, but he's chucked in prison. And I'm like, okay.
And I do like prison films. But 1987 was actually a pretty graphic year in terms of violence in cinema. This is the same year that we also have Predator. RoboCop came out this year, along with Hellraiser and Lethal Weapon, along a couple of others. And some of these are pretty uber-gory, violent films. And The Running Man is probably not as violent as those, but the body count in this film is still very, very high. The film opens up and we're introduced to this totalitarian society where it's a police state. They say at the beginning that it's the year 2017, which isn't far away.
No.
And bizarrely enough, the film is pretty eerily accurate in terms of the fact that so many countries are going through extreme cases of poverty at this time. And it's not too far a stretch of the imagination to actually see something like this possibly happening. Although our current TV game shows are pretty goddamn devoid of anything like The Running Man, which captures that gladiatorial excitement of man versus man in an epic battle to the death. Something that would harken back to gladiators of Roman times. And perhaps also why films like this are still quite successful, because you could also look at Battle Royale or the Hunger Games or anything like that, where when there is a conflict that is being televised as a sport, the masses will come and see it.
I mean, this is the thing that always makes me laugh about this film, is that, you know, there's always the attitude of, oh, well, the government's controlling us, you know, we need to fight back and we need to rebel. And then the government turns around and goes, here's prizes you can earn if you try and go in for this game show. And people go, I'm going for it! I don't care, the government controls me, I want that new flat screen TV and the video player. I love the video players.
Oh, look at this! An ICF home video!
I love the VHSs. Yeah.
The board games, the Running Man board games is absolutely brilliant.
But I also like the fact that when the games are happening, you see all of the, the unfortunate people in society that are living in these burned out cities that also come out and they gamble with the last of their money.
Yeah.
On their gladiatorial heroes.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show that on all echelons of society, everyone is invested in this Running Man TV show.
That's it. I mean, like I said, when I was younger and I watched this film, I didn't get much of the hidden messages, I suppose. For me, it was just an Arnie film and I just wanted to watch him kick ass. Now I'm older, I appreciate the messages coming through. You know, the fact that you have the poor outside gambling their money so that they can become rich, so that they can get on the other side of the wall into the city, so that they can sit in the audience and watch the Running Man live and earn even more prizes. One of the coolest characters in this film is Richard Dawson playing Damon Killian.
Now tell me, what's the #1 television show in the whole wide world? And who loves you, and who do you love? One more time. Yes!
Now, Richard Dawson had come from a background of being a host of real TV shows back in the 60s
Like Family
and 70s.
Feuds.
Yeah. And his performance as Killian is just...
It's an exaggerated form of his TV personality self.
Yeah.
Which makes him perfect.
He is like a cool villain. I mean, he's not as badass as, say, the Terminator, the T-1000 or the Predator. But the control that he has over everything, the fact he's able to call up the president's agent, you know, and get Ben Richards on his show, because he says like, you can't have it both ways. If you want people in front of the TV, you need to give me the best contenders.
He's all about sensationalism, and whatever Killian wants, he's gonna get it, because well, this TV show is running the planet at the moment.
Yeah.
I've got the brains, and you've got talent. Now you've got more. You've got talent, you've got charisma, and you got balls. And that's why I pulled a few strings to get you here. I'd like you to volunteer to appear on tomorrow's broadcast of The Running Man.
So we are introduced to Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, and he, as you've said, is military personnel or law enforcement, as you will, and he's flying around in his chopper, of course. And he's told to fire on civilians that are rioting at this point in time, and he refuses to do so. The authorities tell him, lay waste to them. Of course, after he's refused, he's knocked out and sent to prison.
Yeah.
Where we're introduced to a couple of his co-stars. Whilst they're in the prison, they form a plan to break free of these transmitters, which are keeping them locked in, because should you try and escape, this happens. It cuts away pretty quickly, but let's just watch that head explosion one more time, please. It reminds me of The Fortress, when you have to show an example of what would happen if you broke the laws or went past the red line.
Yeah, yeah. And I really like that setup, really, because obviously you have Schwarzenegger and then you have his two friends, Williams and Harold, his two buddies. And Harold is the kind of computer whiz, and you have Yaphet Kotto playing the other guy, and they just kind of form this bond at the beginning. Once they escape from the prison, they head to the city and they meet up with Mick, the leader of the rebel, played by Mick Fleetwood, lead guy of Fleetwood Mac. And, you know, they disarm the bombs, and so you're getting behind Arnie then, like, okay, you know, maybe he's going to escape. Once he gets into the city and he meets up with Amber, who you might remember from Predator 2.
There's 4 actors in this film, all from the Predator franchise.
And then he tries to escape with Amber through the airport. He gets captured there and obviously gets taken to the game show. But it's what I like about that part is, Amber's there and she starts to realize that the government lies, because there's a news report saying about how Ben Richards escaped in the airport but killed like 3 or 4 people.
At point blank range.
Yeah.
And obviously her understanding then is what a lot of people in real life need to understand, that television can be incredibly manipulative in terms of the information that it gives you. And 9 people out of 10 will hear and see what they see on a television set and take it as fact.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, this film is very exaggerated in the terms of that it's delivering that information to you, but sometimes that's what it takes.
But this is it. That's what I mean. Back in the day, I was just like, I don't believe that. Now that I'm older, I'm like, you chuck on these adverts, you chuck on all these glossy images, and people are just dumbfounded and hypnotized by what's going on, so they'll believe absolutely everything. With obviously the birth of the internet, we're actually getting more and more rebel information given to us.
Our impulses are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep. The poor and the underclass are growing. Racial justice and human rights are non-existent. They have created a repressive society, and we are their unwitting accomplices.
But getting back to the film, I mean, Arnie has been captured now. He's had his face one-on-one with Killian, and, he's then realized that Killian is lying to him, because Killian says, if you don't go in, I'll send your 2 buddies in. He gets Arnie in and sends the 2 buddies in anyway. It's like, yes!
I really like the setup of the game show. I mean, I will say that the film has a very made-for-TV feel about it.
Yeah.
I know it's come from a TV director, and I know that the budget was fairly small considering what they were trying to accomplish here. And the scene where the game show starts and the crowd are all cheering, I'm kind of getting excited in my seat watching the film.
Yeah.
Especially with the elaborate setup they have. And I also got to say, this is a prime example of why I love the 80s.
The world needs more dancers.
It does indeed. So, after we've got rid of the dancers, the 3 of them are set up and ready to be launched into the Running Man game show. And their entrance into it it's pretty fantastic.
I love that slide. I'd definitely go on that slide if they made one.
You see them going down these chutes at incredible speeds, yet for some reason there's still cameras that manages to capture.
Yeah.
And this is one thing that I can't quite figure out.
Yeah.
Is that they all go down pretty much one after the other. And there's a point where you can see the 2 of them going down the chute at the same time, yet they all come out one after the other, and they all come out at the exact same spot.
Yeah.
I was waiting for a pile-up collision at the end when the 3rd one finally came out and just decimated and they all died. But each one comes out. The car that the first one came out is not there anymore.
Yeah, well, that's it. But you've got people already down there, prepared for them to come out. We are talking a film in '87. Between the 2 of us, we must have seen The Running Man at least 20 times. Imagine watching it for the first time and, just seeing how cool it is with the fact that there is no CGI. There is no CGI, there's no special effects in this film. It's all, much like a lot of the films back in the 80s, it's all used with, real homemade kind of effects. All those tunnels, it's the same shot over and over again. But how would they, explain them going down the tunnel? You just see them go down the tunnel once. And you're like, oh, that's a bit shit. You see them go down a tunnel like 3 or 4 times. You're like, whoa, fuck, that's super fast.
But then it looks like they've emerged into the set of a John Carpenter film where you've got all of these masked men. It kind of looks like Escape from New York in some ways.
Yeah, well, he did. Obviously, they're in LA.
Yeah.
That's the city that it's set in. And it always makes me laugh that LA's the first dystopian place we go to in the future. Running Man, Blade Runner, Terminator. The list goes on. LA is like the focal point. And Killian actually does say that underneath the city, you have the ruins of Los Angeles and the big earthquake that happened in 1997. You remember that earthquake, don't you?
Fuck you.
But obviously they're running around the ruins, and I love the set that they're running around in, because once you hark back to the game show, it's all nice and glamorous and lights and dancers and everything's all shiny and nice. Then you go to this place and it is a ruin, you know, and you're supposed to survive in this for 3 hours. It's like, ooh.
So now it's time to release the Stalkers.
Yes.
And this film has a plethora of stalkers. And these are the gladiators that are going to be sent in to hunt down and kill these contestants.
Yeah.
And the first one to be sent in is Professor Subzero. And I like the setup. It's like a hockey rink.
Yeah.
And he's in full hockey suit. He's got the stick, and it's all bladed, and he cuts things down. You're just like, okay, it's actually quite intimidating.
He slices and dices contestants into sushi. I love that line. But yeah, the whole fight sequence on the hockey rink. I mean, if they were just normal guys, Sub-Zero would have fucking annihilated them.
Well, he toys with them for so long. He just keeps skating along and just bumping them off.
But it's because he doesn't actually realise that obviously Arnie is, you know, he's a badass. He's going to use his surroundings to protect himself. And it's only through Sub-Zero cutting the fence that he's able to rip open the barbed wire. Oh, such an awesome sequence.
And this is where Arnold Schwarzenegger just continues to deliver one-liners.
Yeah.
Here is Sub-Zero. Now, Plane Zero.
Of course, we've already had the legendary
I'll be back
moment.
Yeah.
And this here just keeps racking it up and racking it up with the one-liners.
I actually marked this down while I was doing notes. I counted, myself personally, I counted 33 either purposely or not purposely cheesy one-liners in this film that Arnie will hand out. It's just crazy. He inadvertently just adds an extra little cheesy line to a reaction to somebody, or he purposely says it and doesn't even realize how cheesy it sounds.
I love it where he picks the guy up and he's like, need a lift? Just throws him over. Just like, some of them are really bad, but some of them will still make you laugh.
Give me a break and shut up.
Obviously, once Sub-Zero dies, the crowd are shocked. They haven't had a gladiator death, I think, for ever through the whole Running Man series. So then they have to try and adapt, and they decide to send in Dynamo and Buzzsaw.
I mean, they look pretty iconic, but at the same time, one looks like a Christmas tree, and the other one looks like...
Scott Steiner from WCW.
Yeah. They kind of look quite stupid, but at the same time, I've never been able to shake the image of a guy with a chainsaw riding a motorcycle.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
that's
awesome.
just fucking badass. The conflict between them two, it's basically just a power of strength.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, this is also perhaps one of my most memorable deaths in film history.
Yeah.
With this chainsaw, when you see it slowly being lowered and Arnie's getting the upper hand, and when you see that chainsaw, the angle that it starts to take right between his legs, and you can see his eyes looking at Arnie like, yeah, shit. Even the crowd, it's just a silence, because when you hear his high-pitched, cartoony reaction, I guess they added that because of how horrible a death like that would be. But then, of course, Arnie just ends it with the silly one-liner.
What happened to Buzzsaw?
He had to split.
It's just... Dynamo, though, his outfit is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But then again, in the game show like this, I guess you want to make these memorable characters, but he does look so stupid.
But it does hark back to the wrestling that was going on at the time with these over extravagant, kind of colourful characters, like Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage. So when you have somebody like Dynamo, he does look stupid, but if you remember, this is it is a futuristic game show. He's bought into his character. He believes he's a badass as Dynamo in this full-on suit.
He's also an opera singer.
Yeah.
It also has a scene where he's in this little vehicle.
I love that buggy.
This buggy thing. And he's chasing them through this wasteland, and Arnie's running up this quarry or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he decides to chase him in this car, and I was like, it's not made for that. And before you know it, it tumbles over.
He doesn't realise it. The adrenaline's pumping. He's thinking he's going to run Arnie down, And he hits that ramp and crashes down, and you can hear him screaming like, "Cut! Go to commercial! I don't want to die!"
Cut! Go to commercial! Jesus Christ! I have no power! Cut! Go to commercial!
And this is the turning point for the crowd, because the whole time they've been behind the Stalkers and they want the Butcher of Bakersfield to die. And then when Arnie leaves Dynamo to live...
No. I won't kill a helpless human being. Not even sadistic scum like you.
The crowd are just like, oh, hold on a minute. He's not a killer. Why would he leave Dynamo alive? So then the crowd starts to turn and starts to back Richards. And that's where Killian starts to go, hold on a minute, we need them still be back on our side. So he contacts Arnie in the ruins and says to him, look, I'll set you up with a condo, I'll set you up with shitloads of money, you'll be our number one stalker. And then Arnie just delivers another one-liner.
You cold-blooded bastard. I'll tell you what I think of it. I live to see you eat that contract. But I hope you leave enough room for my fist, because I'm going to ram it into your stomach and break your goddamn spine! Ah!
So at this point in the film as well, the woman that set Ben up to get him caught has started to do some investigating of her own.
Yeah.
And she realises that all of the footage that they've played to the audience has all been faked and dubbed and re-edited to make him look like the bad guy. So, of course, they would love to see him get killed. He's a criminal. But then after she got the code and she's on the run back, they've sent in Fireball to hunt them down. She comes across a room where she finds the survivors of the game show. Yeah. Those that beat the Running Man are now on holidays. They've got women, they've got money, and they're still wearing their Running Man suits.
Yeah.
But of course she finds their corpses and realises yet again that the film or the TV show has been lying to everybody. No one's ever survived, and should they... it's just a ruse and a lie.
Yeah, just to keep the audience going in, because obviously, if everybody keeps getting killed, then there'd be no point watching it. You have to have winners every now and again. But as we see later on, they are able to take the faces of the winners and apply them to obviously fake bodies to pretend that they've won. But I always love the digital mapping, because this is 87. I mean, I didn't actually think they could actually do it back then.
Well, it's supposed to be 2019, but...
Yeah, but obviously with the technology that we have now, if obviously you look at things like The Lord of the Rings, where they were able to take the actors' faces and apply them to stunt actors, small stunt actors. We have that technology now, and yet 87 they predicted it.
Okay, dismantle all the overlays. Put the digital mat into pixel memory storage. The damn thing worked like a charm.
It should. Edit'll charge us an arm and a leg for the software. Damon, you didn't have to kill him.
It's all a part of life's rich pattern, Brenda. You better fucking get used to it.
I just like how fast they can make these transitions and just go, right, dub, done,
Yeah.
play. It's, and also it's quite an interesting moment when you see them do that, because they've got Jesse Ventura and Arnold Schwarzenegger both in these spandex outfits, both grappling with each other like amateur wrestlers, delivering corny lines of dialogue to each other. And I just look at them both and I'm just like, God damn it, you both did Predator the same year. And you look at the difference between them in that one to The Running Man, and you just see how farcical this film perhaps can be seen.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, there's a great scene where they grapple and Arnie gets thrown onto a wall of spikes and dies. And so all of the people watching the show are like, okay, well, Ben's dead. Show's over. We'll tune in next week to see who's running next time. And I've got to say, I don't know whether this was intentional, whether it was just never believed that they would actually see this, but when they're rolling credits of the Running Man game show within the film, just pause the screen and have a look at some of the things that are going past. I think the person who was making this clip show just could not be asked on that day. He just wanted to go home early, so he just did a bunch of fake credits and let them roll.
Yeah, well, you would. It's just in the background. You're not really going to see it.
It's the sort of things you notice when you rewatch the film for the 20th time.
What are you, my people, or an oil painting? We're up 9 points. Come on now. Let's go, champ.
So while the game show's ending, Arnie and Amber are making their way into Zone 4 or Quadrant 4, where they actually come across the rebel encampment, who we were introduced to briefly at the very beginning of the film.
Yeah.
And from that point on, Arnie's like, okay, ready to go, got my Hawaiian t-shirt, and off I go. But then he realizes that this rebel army is run by boys and inexperienced people. So being Arnie and deciding that he has all of the leadership qualities that they are lacking, decides to lead this rebel faction into the studio to shut it down once and for all.
Yeah.
I told Killian I'd be back. I wouldn't want to be a liar.
They manage to grab hold of the satellite. They turn up. They start killing the soldiers and protecting the civilians. But it kind of makes me laugh that, the soldiers are just doing their job. And they inadvertently kill some civilians while they're trying to attack the rebels, but then the rebels kill the soldiers. And I'm like, okay, you're protecting the civilians, but those guys were just doing their job. They were just trying to make a living. There's going to be families and children at home like that. When's Daddy coming home? He's at work. Oh, he's been killed by Ben Richards because Ben Richards is saving us.
Exactly. The film kind of flips on its head at the end. Now, I don't want to bring it back to the book.
Yeah.
But in the book, that character volunteered for the show. It wasn't put into it.
Yeah.
But by the end, he ends up destroying the building and killing everybody inside. So I'm guessing that this version of Richards isn't as lost as perhaps that character, because he doesn't just blow up everybody.
Well, obviously Richard Bachman, or Stephen King, depending on where you're coming from, actually says that Ben Richards in the film is far flung from what Ben Richards was in the book. In the book, he's a kind of weak, thin man who's obviously just living day to day trying to survive. And once in the book, once he finds out that his wife and his daughter have been murdered, and he's got nothing else to live for, and that he is just going to be killed, even if he does survive, he does decide to bring the company down. Obviously, in the movie, we've been following Arnie. We knew he was a badass at the beginning. If you've ever seen an Arnie movie, and so we want him to bring the company down, because obviously he's the fucking hero. That's what heroes do. They get a lot of other people killed.
You look pissed, Ben. Believe me, you got every right to be. But hey, will you just let me explain? This is television, that's all it is. It's nothing to do with people, it's to do with the ratings.
I don't have one particular favourite scene in this film.
No,
there's lots of little bits that I really like. You want to... Arnie actually said to the director at one point, he was like, you do not perceive the future correctly. You're making mistakes.
Yeah.
I've just worked with James Cameron on Terminator, and he had an exact idea of what the future would be. Whereas this film, it's kind of a bit muddled, because in the year 2019, she has contraband cassette tapes.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, they still have cassette tapes in the year 2019? God damn,
Well,
I can't
yeah.
even find mine anymore.
But this is it. I mean, okay, yeah, so Arnie worked with James Cameron, and, you know, the future is supposed to be an apocalyptic vision with machines going around shooting us with laser guns. Wait. No, it's not happening.
I just have to say, this film is a bit of a mishmash of future tech and past tech.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, they had to use what they had. You know,
I
he
know,
does
I
say
know.
a lot of it is black market. So if you did have an old copy of, say, I don't know, a Fleetwood Mac tape, and then the government said, nope, no more Fleetwood Mac songs, then the only place you're going to find them is on that one tape that you've managed to hide, well, wherever.
Okay, we'll take you. I'm just nitpicking. Okay?
I know.
I'm only nitpicking.
But this is it. If you, this is the thing I always say to people when you look deeply into films, and you know certain films that have been built up with layers upon layers of different things you can look at. Once you get through those layers, you realize that the films are completely implausible. This film is completely implausible, so don't take it apart, because if you start removing the stitching, the whole thing is just going to completely come apart, and it's just going to look like a mess on the floor. This film is awesome. It's just fun. It's fun for the sake of Arnie kicking the crap out of people.
It's showtime.
Okay. So a few of my favourite scenes include the guy getting his head exploding when he escapes from the prison colony. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I like the scene where, I mean, it just made me cringe when he's getting these injections before he goes on the Running Man show, and it's the injection that goes right in between his fingers. That made me wince, actually. It's quite unpleasant to see. What I also liked is when he's talking to the lawyer, and the lawyer's like, I'll turn over and you can sign it on my back. And
Don't forget to send me a copy.
lawyers could be cold-hearted vampires, but that was pretty cold.
It's pretty stupid though. Like, oh, it's the way he goes, use my back, prisoner, and you can just see Arnie's face like, I'm gonna fucking stab you.
Jesse Ventura,
Yeah.
the sexual Tyrannosaurus,
Yeah.
doing a workout aerobics video.
Are you ready for pain? Are you ready for suffering? If the answer is yes, then you're ready for Captain Freedom's workout.
Yes, it's America's own Captain Freedom.
That's the ticket. No pain, no gain.
It's just so over the top. It's just beautiful, beautiful 80s.
It's when he pops up on screen once, he pops up again, and then he pops up upside down. It's awesome.
Bunch of slap-jawed faggots around here. This stuff will make you a goddamn sexual tyrannosaurus. Just like me.
But my other absolute favourite moment with Jesse Ventura is when he's being called to action.
Yeah.
Is it Captain Freedom?
Yeah, Captain
and
Freedom.
Captain Freedom makes his entrance and he walks in looking like the bargain basement Robocop.
Forget it, Killian. I won't do it.
But obviously that's his attitude. It's just like, you know, I was killing guys like this with my bare hands. I don't need any of this crap. And obviously it harks back to Dynamo and Fireball and Buzzsaw, because the TV company wants to make them look all awesome with this stupid crap. And yeah, he just looks silly with all this silvery crap.
I don't need this crap. This stuff is garbage.
Just like Gary, my favourite scenes are the head exploding at the beginning, the dancers, Buzzsaw and Dynamo with their tag team, especially Buzzsaw's death. I got a thing for chainsaws, especially if somebody gets chainsawed in the nutsack. But one scene that always makes me laugh is that there's this little old lady who is Killian's #1 fan. And he is messing around with her at the beginning, and then he asks her towards the end of the show, like, who's going to perform the next kill? And she says Ben Richards. And he's like, no, you can't bet on the runners. And she's like, I can bet on anybody I want.
That boy's one mean motherfucker.
He's one mean motherfucker. And I'm like, she looks like a 70s. She just said mean motherfucker. It's awesome. I definitely recommend The Running Man to anybody who hasn't seen it. If you have seen The Running Man, then you obviously know all of the things we've already talked about. You know if you like it, if you dislike it. But for those people who are fresh to the cinema scene and haven't gone back to Arnie's classics, I will say in inverted commas, Running Man is definitely up there. It does seem a little bit dated. It does seem a little bit 80s-esque, but there are some hidden messages in there. And the fact that there is no CGI and all the special effects are just, made by hand, it does just make this film stand out.
Yeah, if you're a child of the 80s like we are, you just have a nostalgia and appreciation for these films, good and bad.
Yeah.
I have to say that, I haven't rewatched The Running Man until recently, now, to do this review, and it's been a long time. The film for me is starting to age, and it's starting to show its signs of it.
Yeah.
However, the film is still quite entertaining. It's cheesy, it's goofy, it's full of one-liners. It's an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. You know what you're getting into from that point. It's filled with memorable characters. The sets, again, are also very well put together. I also think that the music score is actually really good. They went for a sort of techno, trancey sort of music, so no natural instruments, and it really works. It sold me on the film and the sort of sci-fi punk sort of universe that this film's going for. If you've never seen The Running Man, you should at least check it out once. If you're not a fan of Arnie movies, then definitely stay away from it because you're missing out on like a huge portion of 80s, 90s cinema.
Yeah.
There's nothing really bad I can say about the film. I do like to nitpick at it because the film will turn your brain off when you're watching it. It is lowbrow entertainment, but it does have some high concepts in there which are really relevant to society today. If we let things get out of hand, that is in pretty an extreme way. But this is an Arnie film. Even if you've seen the film in your past, it's actually worth rewatching again. You'll get some laughs and some giggles out of it. Just turn your brain off and enjoy the film for what it is.
Well, that hit the spot.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Shout it from the highest steeple, let it out to all the people. Hey! Play it on the loudest speaker, burn it like the highest fever. You hit the right spot.
If you'd like to be a contestant on The Running Man, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to ICS Talent Hunt, near your local affiliate, and then go out and do something really despicable. I'm Phil Hilton. Good night and take care.